Alrighty, so as promised, today we are going to talk about the Philadelphia Union and talk about this disastrous start that they have so far this season. I mean, to say that it's been a disastrous start to this season is really an understatement. This is probably the worst start I've ever seen a team that coming off of a Sapporo Shield winning campaign to start this season. And not only that, this is also a team that is currently the only MLS team right now from 5 games that have yet to get a single point. And it's not even close, too, because the next team that still haven't got a win, there's actually only 2 winless teams so far this season, which is kind of surprising to see that there's only that little amount after 5 games to the season. But between them and the Columbus Crew, at least Columbus has been able to get 2 draws. The Union aren't even able to manage that, and they have lost their first 5 games of the season with an 0-5 record. And doing that 5 game losing streak to start the season, they've only scored 3 goals so far this season while conceding 9 with a goal differential of -6. And as I mentioned, they're the only MLS team to yet to get a point. So looking at this disastrous start to the first 5 games of the season, I didn't include the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well because, yes, I know that they did very well in their first round against Defense Force, but as we've seen so far this year with MLS team when they face against their Caribbean opposition, it's not even a contest whatsoever. It's almost a laughable to look at that and it's almost like these MLS teams are basically facing against USL or even USL League One, that kind of type of opponent, and it's just not the same thing. But when it comes to the MLS itself, and also when they face against Club America, which to be fair, I think they did definitely do much better against Club America than I thought they would. I thought they was just going to get absolutely rinsed by Club America in those two-legged affair, but of course they still were able to move on into the next round. But look at the first 5 games. They lost 1-0 to DC United, and this is supposed to be a team that historically. I'm gonna do a little sniffle there. I'm actually fighting a little bit of an allergy as we talk about this video. But yeah, historically the unit has always dominated against DC United. They have toyed with DC United in the last couple of years, and I get that yes, all narrative eventually is going to come to an end. This is why in the last couple of years we have seen some past narrative of a team dominating against an opposition, and that not only has come to an end, but the other team finally got their revenge. And I think DC probably got tired of getting toyed around by the Philadelphia Union. So yeah, they of course got the win in this game against the Union, and they didn't just got the win against the Union. They got the win with the only guy that scored the goal is Ty Baribo. And we'll definitely talk about him in just a bit of how big of a miss that this Union team has with his goal scoring ability. But then they follow that with a rematch of last year's second round playoff against NYCFC, a team that, I talk about narrative, they always tends to struggle against them in big games, minus that 1 year where they were able to get over the hump in 2022 against NYCFC, and they lost that one too, and it was a painful loss as well because they actually were the better team for majority of the game. Eventually, did get that equalizer that they desperately needed, and then Makaya got a red card in that game, and that would be costly too because NYCFC would score that second goal and just kind of turn the game on its head and won that one 2-1 as well. Now, they then play against the San Jose Earthquakes, and I'll definitely talk about the Quakes in just a bit in terms of their surprising start throughout this week, where I actually have times to do videos related to MLS because of no MLS game during international break. The Quakes, of course, they have been a surprise package, but I also thought that, look, yes, it's not been a great start to the season, but you're playing against the Quakes. I didn't really believe too much in terms of the fact that the Quakes are really for real after the 2 games that they have facing against some relatively easy opponent. And in that game against the Quakes, it's the same thing against NYCFC. They look promising at least on the attacking end, but they just never able to get the goal that they needed, and the Quakes just need one goal able to get a big roll win. I always say that when you, of course, get shut out by the San Jose Earthquakes. I mean, this season I'm not going to say too much about that because they've been surprisingly got off to such a great start to the season, especially of how amazing their defense is. But I've said it before, Bear, if you get shut out by the San Jose Earthquakes, yeah, you're not a good team because not many teams should be getting shut out by the San Jose Earthquakes. Consider in years past before this year, this was a team that I've even said every time when they get a clean sheet, it feels like it feels like I won the lottery or at least a good price in the lottery because it doesn't happen often whatsoever. And then on March 14th, this was probably the worst performance. I gotta say that the Union has put. So far out of these three performances, I mean, the one against DC that was kind of discouraging as well because they were really never in the game. But I guess that's because they were coming off of the CONCACAF Champions Cup game where they had to go all the way down to Trinidad and Tobago. That is a really long trip to come back and then play a road game like that. It's not going to be easy whatsoever. But there's no excuse in terms of this game against Atlanta United, a team that have kind of been struggling to begin the season, and they basically made Atlanta United look like Atlanta United from 2017 and 2018. And part of that maybe is the fact that maybe Tata Martino kind of brought some of that magic back, but it doesn't help the fact that you did kind of contribute that. Where not only the fact that the attack was woeful in that game, but the defense was woeful as well. I mean, they were making Atlanta United just look like prime Atlanta United back in 2017. Phew! Oh God, I'm starting to see a bit there. As I said, battling allergy right now, but they basically made Atlanta look like that, and yeah, that's definitely not a good sign. And that yeah, they lost that one 3-1. They were 3-0 down at one point in that game as well. And then of course the last game they had against the Chicago Fire, also not a very good performance as well. The Fire was able to get the two goals and able to overcome the Union in that one as well, despite the that Milan did score his first goal of the season for the Union, and he's another guy that I'll talk about in just a bit that has been a huge disappointing thing for this Union team as well. Now, looking at the transfer that they this offseason, I'm looking at some of the transfer they this offseason. I want to mention this because I think this plays a key part of why the Union is where they are right now. And some of the key arrivals that they have, guys like Ezekiel Alador, Augustine Anello, Jaffer Sari Larson, Janet Martinez, and their recent signing Felipe Inge. Those guys are kind of part of this new core that the Union are trying to implement. We talked about before where the union has been kind of going through a bit of a transitional period, at least in the last season or two, getting rid of some of their old core and putting some new one in hope that, of course, it would work out. But as I always say, when you decided to go for a complete change of your team, it's not an easy thing to do. And I understand that the union had to do it with their old core because of the way that the old core was not going to be able to get them over the hump, and they're going to have to go for a transitional period. Yeah, so forth. But at the same time, we decided to put in a new core like that. There's no guarantee that this new core that the Union are putting is going to be just as successful as we saw in the team over the years, and maybe this is also kind of a sign that because they're putting a lot of new players into this team, it's going to take times for this team to kind of implement it. And this is also kind of where I said last season when they kind of go through a transitional period, and the fact that it was kind of surprised that they did so well. I feel like this is kind of, at least from what we've seen this season, is kind of what we thought that this team was going to be like last season. We thought that this team was going to go through some growing periods, and that this team is probably not going to be doing as well as previous season. Though I will also say that, despite I say that, I didn't expect them to start as bad as they are in the beginning of the season. And now looking at some of the key departure, and this is where I think really hurts this team a lot in terms of what the struggle they have, especially on the attacking end. I want to first mention that Gavin Vasquez, who's now with San Diego FC. He was actually on loan with San Diego last year as well, but they made it a permanent deal, and how much that has really hurt the Union as well. Well, I know a lot of people talk about the Ty Baribo and Kai Wagner kind of departure as a big key thing, but I want to put David Vasquez in that category as well because he has definitely excelled during his time with San Diego, especially what we saw in the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well. And he's another guy that is a very young product coming from the Union system, and this is kind of thing that the Union should not be able to do. The Union has done such a great job in the past promoting some young talent, and they in some extent still do nowadays. But this is also a team that doesn't just decide to let go of their young talent to other team as well. They always tends to promote within and keep it with them, and this is just a rare example of a very good talented player coming out of the Union Academy that the Union kind of just let it slip out of their hands, even though he definitely could have been a big help, at least for this Union team. And then, of course, we talk about the departure of Ty Baribo and Kai Wagner. I think these two departures is really the one that I think is a huge standpoint of why this team has really struggled to in this season in terms of goal scoring. They also let go of Mikel Ruru, though that one was we kind of saw it coming with the way that with his contract running down and the way that they haven't really played him that much. There was no doubt that they were going to re-sign him to a new contract extension, and the same goes with Chris Donovan as well. He's just kind of like a guy being there. He's kind of almost similar to it's the same thing we see with the Red Bulls with Tom Barlow and Brian White, where those guys used to be some promising players coming out of that academy, but when they come into the first team, they really hasn't produced so much, and as a result, they decide to let him go. And while the Red Bulls letting go of Brian White, that was a huge mistake on their part. I'm not sure they're regretting too much about Tom Barlow, even though Barlow actually has done much better job doing his time with Cincinnati than I thought he would, and especially getting more minutes with FC Cincinnati than I thought he would. I thought he was going to be in the Corey Bear situation with Cincinnati, but he's been getting some good minutes with Cincinnati as well, and scoring goals as well for the team. And then, of course, they decided to not renew the loan of Ian Galinovich. This one kind of makes sense as well because he's kind of been very injury prone during his season, never able to stay healthy, and we just didn't really get enough uh kind of reps in terms of how good he is because of him spending way too many time on the IR rather than on the pitch. So some of the key points that I want to mention and some of the reason where why this team has gone off such a bad start. Obviously, this team simply can't score. I mean, prior to the game that they had against the Chicago Fire, they've only scored one goal from open play. The other goal that they of course scored was from the penalty spot, and then of course Ilosky just recently score a goal this weekend against the Chicago Fire. They're also missing Ty Baribo and Kai Wagner badly in this team. I mean, Ty Baribo is the guy that say what you say about Ty Baribo of him being kind of a hot and cold number nine. He has had some good spell. He has also had his struggle as well. But he's still a guy that can give you 15 plus goal contribution, which this Union team really needed because right now Ezekiel Alado has just not been it for this team. I mean, he's I believe he's got more red cards so far this season than actually scoring goals for this Union team, and that's not really a good stat that you want to lean on as well. And then of course Kyle Wagner when it comes to his assist ability, again, I think a lot of people might have underestimated the fact that he was a guy that he is really the true playmaker for this Union team. I mean, the Union, when you look at their team in the past, they don't really have an out and out number 10 on this team ever since they let go of Daniel Gastak. A lot of it comes from Kyle Wagner as well, and now that he's no longer there, there's really nobody on this team that can legitimately be a key playmaker and are giving the service to both Ilosky and Diamani in front of goal in terms of scoring it. Though that being said, when they are giving opportunity, neither of those guys are scoring as well. And that's where kind of the next point where I talk about Bruno Diamani and Milan Ilosky. Both of them have only scored one goal so far this season. And if it wasn't for Ilosky scoring against Chicago, both of those guys would have zero goals to their name in terms the start of the season and zero goal contribution as well. So when you have your two number nine have got zero goals and combined to start the season, yeah, that's not ideal in terms of how things are going. Especially, I think, obviously, Ilowski, I think maybe part of the reason why he's not scoring as much goals with the Union might be the system that the Union of course run, and also he's not getting the service like he did during his time with San Diego. But the thing I would also say is that for him to even when he is getting the chances and not able to put away, that's something that we didn't see with San Diego as well. But also with Diamante, I mean, I think he is really starting to turn into a bust. I mean, last season we saw how he was still producing in terms of goal scoring, but very underwhelming. You would have thought that maybe he'd take a step up this season. He has not taken a step up this season. In many ways, he's taken a step down this season, and that's a huge black hole when it comes to the spot that he is. I believe he's actually a DP right now with the Philadelphia Union. So yeah, when you don't have one of your DP contributing in the goal scoring department, yeah, that's kind of the big problem with this team. And then I think lastly, in terms of this bad start to the season, something that is a lot overlooked is the fact that defense also hasn't really done very well to begin the season as well. Now, people of course will point out that the loss of Jacob Glasness is definitely felt, but I don't know even if Jacob Glasness being on this team maybe it will help out too too much. I mean, for the past couple of years, even before Bradley Cornell took over this team, their defense has kind of gone through a bit of a decline. Last season, it definitely got a lot better, and a big part of why it got so much better is guys like McConaughey has really stepped up in a big way. And this season, yeah, let's say that McConaughey is kind of suffering a sophomore slump. I mean, he has not performed well at all. He got that red card in the game against NYCFC that ultimately cost the Union at least a point out of that game as well. And some of their new signing as well, guys like Sarah Larson and Gainer Martinez. Those guys, again, it's too early to tell whether or not if they are good replacements as we're 5 games into the season. But so far, both of those guys have been kind of underwhelming in that back line for this Union team. And even Andre Blake himself, he hasn't really been hit himself as well. I mean, yes, occasionally Blake still makes some big save in there and there, but he's not like an Andre Blake, a player that we saw a couple of years ago, where he was single-handedly stealing games for the Union because of the incredible big saves that he made over and over again. So I think as much as we talk about the goal scoring as a big problem, I'm thinking about their defense as well, where they've already conceded 9 goals so far this season. I believe last season they only conceded like 35 goals. Was one of the best defensive team last season as well, and the fact that already they have conceded about a little less than a quarter of the goals that they conceded, and we're only 5 games in the season. Yeah, just tells you that that defense definitely has took a step off, and that obviously is something that they just cannot not afford to do because again, this team, if you already started to struggle to score goals, if your defense started to show some crack as well, it's no wonder why they started the season with the record that they currently have. Now, look at the next 5 games for this Union team. Is it going to get better for this team? Well, the good news is maybe, because when you look at the next 5 games, they have some easy opponent that they have to face. Well, I say easy, but they have to face against Charlotte coming out of the international break. One thing I said about Charlotte in my emotion index yesterday is that Charlotte, their record is a little bit misleading. They have had their struggle this season, especially playing on even strength. They only look good mainly because the 2 times when they had a man up, they have absolutely took advantage of that, and then some, and then they of course go on the road to play against Montreal. I believe that's Montreal home opener as well, and against a Montreal team that has really struggled this season. You would expect the Union should at least get something out of it. And then of course they got a chance to play against East United again at home before going on the road against the Toronto side that. Toronto has started to get a little bit better, especially with the introduction of Jar Sargent, who he's still kind of in preseason form. I have no doubt that if he and when he does get better and when he gets himself back to match fitness, that could be a dangerous Toronto team. And then, of course, lastly, that we have the Wooden Spoon Derby potentially on April 25th against the Columbus Crew because those are the two teams that is currently sitting in the bottom two spot in the Wooden Spoon spot right now in the early part of the season of the Wooden Spoon standings. So yeah, again, the schedule does continue to get easier for this team. Not saying that the schedule hasn't been hard for the Union. In fact, I would say that's kind of also is a little bit of a huge alarm for the Philadelphia Union because when you look at the opponent that they face so far this season, I mean, maybe besides NYCFC and in some extent the San Jose Earthquakes as well. Well, in Chicago has been pretty tough opponent. I think NYCFC has been a pretty tough opponent that they have to face. But most of these teams that they face, you would have expect last season that the Union should be able to pick up points against those teams, and they're just simply not doing it. And this is why the fan base are getting absolutely restless. And I know some will, of course, easily point the finger to Bradley Cornell and at the second year curse that it feels like it's in full effect. I think a lot of them is pointing to the ownership group and the fact that once again the ownership group not being doing a good job in terms of scouting talent. And this whole part, I haven't even got to the part of the Ernest Tanner situation as well because the Ernest Tanner situation with him being suspended until June and the fact that he has definitely not done a good job when it comes to his scouting compared to years past. That also kind of maybe plays a big role of why this team has got off to just such a bad start to the season. Because anytime you have off the field distraction happening, it can definitely affect the on field production as well. And yeah, I mean, this is a team that no doubt that these next couple of games coming out of the international break, they need to be better because I predicted that even though with this team kind of gutting the talent that they had last season, I was expecting this team to not once again finish first and maybe take a step down. I did not expect this team to be a win spoon contender. I did not expect how bad things have got with this team in the beginning of the season, and yeah, they need to ride that ship because if they don't, the first casualty I think you got to say in terms of the huge finger that's going to be pointed is probably going to be on Bradley Cornell. I mean, again, that second year curse of Bradley Cornell, that's definitely going to be have to be studied. The fact that I thought he learned from his mistake in his first season, and there were times where I've definitely seen that he learned his mistake in his first season with the Union, that he made the same mistake with St. Louis of being a little bit too complacent with his tactics. Well, I would say that he's not really doing the same thing with the Union, at least heading into this season as well. It's just that again, because of this team has got off to a lot of this bad start, maybe a lot has to point with the fact that the recruitment is just definitely not there with this team. And the fact that some of the talent that they lost this offseason, it seems like now has finally started to caught up to them in terms of really taking a huge amount of quality out of this team and kind of got off to this bad start that they have so far this season. But there you have it. That is pretty much it. Talking about the Union and talk about this dreadful start that they have. If you're a Union fan, let me know in the comments below what do you think of this video, and is things are gonna get a little bit better as we come out of this international break. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you do, please guys, you like, smash the subscribe button, and yeah, I of course will see you guys next time.